You are now listening to Clay Mohr, the American storyteller.
Where does the time go? The $1 million question, I guess. I was working later than usual in my office on some job bids when Angie stuck her head in and said, "Are you still here, Clay?" "Yeah," I answered. "Got to get these job bids submitted." "I thought you were leaving first thing in the morning to go to Jaime's." "Yeah, that's the plan. I'm almost done." "Are you going to be all right?" I responded. "Don't worry, Angie. You are only going to be gone for a few days. Anyways, don't you remember you've got Donnie here with me in the shop while you're gone?" "That's what I'm afraid of." "Cut it out, Clay," Angie laughed. "Enjoy your time off and we'll try not to bother you." Jaime's a real good friend of mine and one of the best breeders of German Shepherds in the country. He supplies a lot of the canine dogs for several state police agencies, as well as narcotics and explosive detection dogs for several of the port authorities. I wouldn't buy a dog from anyone else but him. He had called me a few weeks back about some work he was having done at his place. He was going to have some of his property cleared so he could expand his operation and set up an additional training center. He remarked to me, "I wish I could have you do it for me, Clay, but I know it's too far to come. I hired a pretty good company, but I would feel a lot better if you could come down and make sure everything goes all right." Jaime was getting ready to sink a lot of cash in his joint, and I could see why he was, so concerned. Besides, me and Jaime go way back, so it wasn't hard for me to agree. Plus, he has a couple of decent sized lakes near his place, so it didn't hurt when he mentioned we would be going on, on his boat during my stay. That Jaime's a real operator, let me tell you. Well, we were kind of in between jobs, so I figured it wouldn't hurt, so I told him I could get down his way pretty quick. What I didn't know at the time, what was really going to happen. I would like to share it with you if you don't mind. I loaded up my truck and hit the highway. Just about daybreak it was. It's an all day drive to his place, and that's without too many stops. I got lucky and made real good time on an uneventful drive, which was nice as I was able to pull into his place, while it was still daylight. As I came down his drive into his place, I got to the house. I could see that, the company had already dropped off, equipment. I took a, good look and they had pretty much the same equipment that I would have brought, for this type of undertaking. Most of the dogs in his one kennel already started barking, so didn't take Jaime long to figure out someone had pulled up. He came out on the front porch and motioned to me where to park my truck. "Don't worry, Clay," he hollered over to me. "I'll have one of the guys grab your gear." By the time I got to the front porch, gave me a big bear hug and said, "Thanks for coming, Clay. I really appreciate it." "No problem," I said. When are they going to start?" "First thing in the morning," he said. "You hungry?" "You better believe it. I've been eating nothing but garbage on the trip here." We can fix that," Jaime quickly remarked. "Is that barbecue still, joint down here still open?" "Oh, yeah," Jaime remarked. "Sticky Sauce Barbecue Shack was the name of it." Some of the best barbecue in the South, not to mention the best catfish I ever ate. I got settled in at Jaime's with the help of one of his guys. Ready to go, Clay? Jaime said. Sure. The three of us jumped in Jaime's truck and headed out. Turns out the guy with us was a new trainer that Jaime had just hired, to help out. Young man named Cody. A real nice guy, as I found out over dinner that he had just recently got out of the army. Did a lot of canine work in special forces, so I know he'd fit right in. This Jaime is a real shrewd operator, I thought to myself. But he had always worked closely, with the military and veterans from all the armed forces. Had a great meal and a couple of beers, and turns out Cody had been in Afghanistan and one of his tours. Well, he's in the right place, I thought to myself. Jaime is a great guy and mentor. I've seen him take a few guys under his wings and actually help them open their own business. So the three of us left and headed back to Jaime's. Cody went on his way, and Jaime and I stayed up for a little bit, talking over old times. Well, I was still a little wound up from the trip, so Jaime poured us both a shot of his favorite tequila. That'll help you sleep, Clay. I thanked him for dinner, and we both turned in as tomorrow was going to be a real busy day. Well, nothing like waking up to the roaring sound of an excavator. I got up, went out to the kitchen where Jaime was having a cup of coffee. I poured myself a cup and remarked, "Have they been here for a while?" No, Jaime said. The operators, they literally just started. Finish our coffee and then we can go out. Well, I went out to see, how they were coming along, and I made sure I stayed out of the way, as I hate when people look over my shoulder. I didn't know any of these guys, so you got to, follow a certain protocol or get run over. I kind of chuckle to myself. I made my way over to the guy with the hard hat and polo shirt with the clipboard in hand. Never very hard to determine who's running the job. I introduced myself and we talked, and I kind of told him a little bit about my background. Well, he assured me not to worry, that, they were going to take real good care of Jaime. And besides, he had recently gotten a puppy for his granddaughter, and Jaime had taken, real good care of him. I thanked him. As I walked away, I said to myself, "Heh, yeah, that sounds like Jaime." I went back to the house, but Jaime wasn't there. I asked one of the guys, and he told me that Jaime had, says something about getting his boat ready. It's over in that blue building. Cody chimed in. I headed over that way, and there he was, checking everything over. Well, what do you think, Clay? Do they know what they're doing? Don't worry, you'll be all right, I responded. Well, great. That means we can go out on the lake tomorrow. Sounds good, I said. I got Cody here tomorrow all day, so we can spend our time and relax on the lake. There's a small diner right nearby, and we can grab some breakfast before we go out. Sounds good to me, I said back to Jaime. I gave him a hand getting everything ready, and we decided on about an 8 o'clock start. Jaime had a real nice boat with a cabin and all the amenities. I was really looking forward to going out with them, and I really don't take a lot of time off, let alone spend it with good friends. We got an early start the next morning and headed out. Jaime thanked me again for coming out, and I assured him not to worry, as I knew after, talking to the guys that he was in good hands. As we pull up to the diner, I noticed it was pretty packed. We had to pull down quite a ways. I made the comment, "Are we going to get in?" Jaime chuckled and said, "Don't worry, Clay." I called Marlene and told her to save us a spot. As I getting out of the truck, I mentioned to Jaime, "Is our stuff going to be all right?" Jaime laughed out loud and said, "It's okay. I got Junior back in the boat cabin." I curiously said, "What is a Junior?" He said, "Don't worry. You'll find out soon enough." Well, we went into the diner and had a great breakfast and talked about the day ahead. He was right. Marlene saved us a great spot. Yeah, that way we could, get out on a lake right away. There was one catch I found out later. Jaime would always clean some of the walleye he would catch and give her some. As we left the diner, Jaime remarked, "I got to check on Junior." When we launched the boat on the lake, I finally found out who Junior really was. A 93-pound East German Shepherd, Jaime's personal bodyguard. "Do you really expect me to get in the boat?" I asked Jaime. "Ah, don't worry," Jaime added. "He'll only eat you if I tell him to." I laughed hesitantly and said, "If you say so." It was a little on the cool side that day, and yeah, the fish were really biting. I looked at Jaime and said, "I guess you're going to have plenty of fish for Marlene." "Yeah, really hasn't been very good the last few times, that I've been out, but you must be good luck, Clay." "Nah, I think it's more like the cool weather." Anyway, you could tell he was happy. We were catching a lot of fish. It was turning out to be a very peaceful day. Jaime had only gotten one phone call, and I had gotten none. Now the day flew by, and before we knew it, it was early evening. Junior hadn't eaten me yet, and I think I had actually made a new friend. Well, we came to shore, and just kind of relaxed for a minute, and then we proceeded to load the boat on the trailer and head back to Jaime's. Well, as we drove back to Jaime's, you could tell he was a little preoccupied. And "Everything okay?" I said. "Yeah, everything's fine," Jaime responded. "I just got a little bit of a dilemma going," he sighed. "Well, what's going on?" I asked. "Well, you know that phone call I got?" "Yeah." "I couldn't believe you only got one all day." "Well, the call was from my transporter, Lewis. His wife is going to go into labor any time now, and he was scheduled to leave sometime tomorrow to deliver one of my puppies." "Well, can't it wait for a few days?" I asked. "Well, that's just it, Clay. It's for a real high-end client of mine, and the dog is a birthday present for his youngest daughter, and I promised him, I'd get it there in time for her birthday. Don't know what I'm going to do now." "Well, where's it at?" I said. When he told me, I thought about it for a minute, and well, that's about halfway on my way home, I thought to myself. Why don't I take it to them? "I don't know," Jaime remarked. "Weren't you going to stay another couple of days?" It's okay. Yeah, anyway, I gotta go. I got another job came in, and I should probably go look at it. And I lied. You sure, Clay? Yeah, as long as this mutt behaves itself. Well, you'd be doing me a big favor. Don't worry about it. I mean, that's what friends are for. Just have Jorge clean some fish up, so we can have them, for dinner tonight. We had a great dinner, and Jaime went all over the particulars with me, and I thanked Jaime for everything and decided to call it a night so I could get an early start in the morning. Jaime shook my hand and said, I really owe you one this time, Clay. Nah, no big deal, I said. Glad to help. Stop by the kennel in the morning and Jorge will, get you all set up. Got up early the next morning and headed over to the kennel. Jorge had, everything set. Here's the paperwork he gave me in a large envelope, with all the AKC stuff. I got the carrier off to the side, and I just got to go back and get the puppy. Let me go back with you and see what Jaime's all got, I replied. So we got back to the back. I spotted Junior out of the corner of my eye and in the side kennel. I'll be right back. As I got closer to where Junior was, Jorge hollered over, Be careful with that one, Clay. Nah, I ain't worried, I yelled back. Junior came over right away and stiffened my hand, and I started to pet him. So long, partner, I told him. Till next time. Wow, Clay, that's the first time anyone's ever done that. He's a good judge of character, I chuckled back. I didn't tell him I had slipped him a piece of fish from dinner last night. Ready to go, Clay. I took the carrier, took a look at my new passenger, for the next day or two. She's a beauty, I said. Big money for that one, Jorge responded back. We shook hands, and I loaded this girl in my truck. As I made my way towards my destination, this puppy kept whining the whole time. What'd you get yourself into now, Clay? I said to myself. I was just shaking my head. I pulled in to get gas at the truck stop, and I spotted a fenced-in area that had a dog walk. They think of everything now these days, I said to myself. Come on, little girl, let's see if you have to go. And then I put her back in a carrier and decided to, put her up front with me so I could keep an eye on her. Well, that's all it took. She went right to sleep the whole time, all the way till I got to the hotel. We pulled in a hotel that Jaime lined up for me. One of those pet-friendly joints, it said. All I know is better have a bar in it. I grabbed the carrier, proceeded into the hotel lobby. As I walked to the front desk, I spotted the lounge area off to my right. That Jaime never disappoints. Tipped my hat to the lady at the desk. Reservations for Clay Mohr and passenger as I looked down at the carrier. The pretty blonde lady kind of laughed as she punched my name into the computer. And how was your passenger? She asked. Still breathing, I hope. Well, I have you on the third floor, but I think we just got a cancellation, on the first floor here. Can you wait a minute and I'll check for you? Sure, I said. Well, while I was waiting, I overheard a conversation between one of the other ladies at the desk, and it looked like one of the housekeepers. Did you hear what happened to little Consuela? She asked. No, I just got back from vacation," the lady responded. Well, the housekeeper went on to tell her about a week or so ago, a family and their dog had been staying there. When it was time to leave in the courtesy bus to go catch their flight, somehow the dog got loose and ran off. They tried to catch it, but it was nowhere to be found. And the husband became, real irritated and said, to heck with it. We got to catch this flight. We'll just have to get another dog. And they got, on the bus and left. Well, about an hour later, here comes the dog. It laid down right, by the front door. One of the other housekeepers, Rosa, let it in and it followed her back to the laundry. Turns out that the animal shelter was closed as it was Sunday, and the manager was in a dilemma when Rosa spoke up and said she would be willing to take the dog home for now and take care of it until things could be, sorted out. Well, needless to say, the dog was a big hit with Rosa's 8-year-old daughter as well as the rest of her family. The housekeeper continued her story. She went on to say that it didn't seem like anyone was ever coming back. So over the next couple of weeks, the family really got attached to the dog, especially little Consuela. With that, the lady that had been helping me returned. Well, I have good news for you, Mr. Mohr. Call me Clay, honey, I quickly replied. I was able to get you on the first floor after all, she replied. You're right by one of the rear exits, which will make it easier, to walk your dog. I looked down at the carrier, said, You hear that, you mutt? No going in the room. The lady laughed as she handed me the room card. I thanked her for all her help and paused as I turned to go to the room. I heard the housekeepers talking about a dog that was left here a couple of weeks ago. Went on to remark, how one of the housekeepers said she had taken the dog in. Well, the lady at the desk kind of looked down and started shaking her head while remarking, I don't have the heart to tell him. I found out later that the sheriff was coming, sometime that afternoon to pick the dog up. Turns out the family had a change of heart. The knucklehead husband probably took a lot of heat from the wife and kids and decided to come back for the dog. Well, I got in the room and got settled in and looked over to the clock on the nightstand, said to myself, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, as I proceeded down the hall to the bar. I sat down, was immediately greeted by a bubbly young lady. Hi, I'm Gwen. What can I get you? She quickly asked. Well, I said out loud, I don't have to go anywhere, so I guess it'll be a Maker's Mark Manhattan. Coming right up, she said. She walked away. She no sooner set my drink down in front of me when we both turned and caught a glimpse of the sheriff walking out with the missing dog. It just isn't right, she remarked as she was shaking her head and making her way down the bar to help the next customer. As I sat there sipping my drink, I kept thinking of the housekeeper's little girl. A stool or so down was a guy sipping on a Bloody Mary and engrossed in a game on one of the big screen TVs. He and Gwen had been speaking for some time, so I assumed he was a regular. As I was about to order another drink, Gwen came down and said, Jack wants to buy you a drink. I looked down, said, sure. I slid down a stool or so, and the stranger reached out his hand. Jack Lux, he quickly said. Clay Mohr, I responded. As we continued to converse over the next hour, I found Jack was an outside rep for some company and did quite a bit of traveling. This was one of his regular stops, which is why Gwen, knew him so well. As part of his job, Jack had been on the road for a while, and you could tell it was wearing on him. Gwen came by and asked if we wanted another round, and I looked at Jack and said, sure. As Gwen walked away, she made a remark again and said, it just isn't fair. Jack looked up to me and said, what's she talking about? Well, over the next half hour or so, I explained to Jack what had happened with the Consuela's family and the missing dog. The whole time I was explaining things to him, I kept thinking about the $3,000 mutt in my room and that I was delivering for Jaime. And of course, Gwen's continuing comment about how it wasn't fair. As I finished telling Jack the story, I looked over at the hotel desk, and the lady that originally helped me she was still there. I told Jack, I'll be right back. As I got up saying to myself, maybe I can make this fair. I don't know. I approached the desk with my checkbook out, tipped my hat, and asked, can you do me a favor? Sure, if I can, the blonde lady responded. Promise, I said as I wrote out a check. Now, I'm leaving to pay the order line, on the check blank. They can fill it in when it's time. Fill what in? The lady responded, and who's they? Well, for whoever Consuela's family ends up to buy her a puppy. This should cover it, I said as I handed her the check. I don't know what to say. Are you sure? Just say you'll get it to Consuela's mother, I said, and yes, I'm sure. Okay, well, you're very, very kind, Mr. Mohr. Clay, honey. Oh yeah, I forgot. I said, just say I'm evening up things a little bit as I headed back to the bar. I finished my drink with Jack and said, that's, kind of time for me to go. I got to get, going right away in the morning. Yeah, me too, Jack proclaimed. Meet you down here for breakfast about 8? Sure, I said, as I laid down a nice tip for Gwen and headed back to my room. Woke up early and got everything ready to go, including walking and feeding my passenger that I would soon be delivering. As I headed down to breakfast, I had no idea what was waiting for me. I spotted Jack Lux right away and made my way over to the table where he was sitting. I couldn't happen to notice a small group of people, gathering around at the hotel desk. Turns out they were the housekeepers and staff that were on duty for that day. Said good morning to Jack and sat down. By that time, the group had made its way over to where we were sitting. The manager on duty for the day spoke right up and asked me if I was the gentleman that had left a check for the Consuela family. Yeah, I said, I left a check. I don't know about the gentleman part of it. Some of them chuckle as the manager remarked. Well, on behalf of the hotel and our staff, we'd like to thank you for your generosity. At that, several of the employees also started to, thank me and shake my hand. And Jack was sitting there. You could tell he looked confused, by the whole thing. At that, one of the Hispanic housekeepers stepped forward and told me that she was Consuela's tia, which is Spanish for aunt. She thanked me, went on to tell me how grateful the family was for my good deed, and you would think I just saved the world or something. I said to myself, It's really no big deal, I explained, to everyone as some of the other guests were now trying to figure out what all the commotion was about. As everyone started to go back to their workstations, the manager shook my hand and said, "Breakfast is on me for you and your buddy." "Thanks," I said as I sat down with Jack, who was still kind of shaking his head. "What the heck was that all about?" Jack asked me. Long story, I said, but quickly filled him in on the short of it. Clay, I had a couple of more drinks after you left last night, and I'm going to start traveling a little less and start spending more time with my little girl. I was thinking, can you give me the name of your breeder, buddy? I want to look at getting my little girl a puppy. "Sure, Jack," I said. "You won't be disappointed. In fact, I think it's a great idea." Well, Jack and I finished our breakfast and said our goodbyes, and I made it back to my room and loaded up my things in a truck and, of course, my passenger. I checked out at the desk and said goodbye to everyone. "All our thanks again, Mr. Mohr." No problem," I replied. Glad I could help." I jumped in the truck, started out toward my destination. "Mr. and Mrs. Robert Taylor," the GPS read. "Well, looks I'm going to get there about lunchtime," I said to myself. The drive went pretty quick, and before I knew it, GPS read .9 miles to go. Looked around and thought to myself, these are some pretty high-end joints. As the home started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I made my last turn. I looked down. Okay, looking for 7756. I hollered back to my passenger as I pulled up to this large two-story home and said, "Looks like you're one lucky little girl. Wow, what a joint. Never saw a four-car attached garage," I said out loud. "Well, they must have been waiting for me, as a very attractive lady came out of the front door." "What else?" I said to myself. "Are you Mr. Mohr?" she quickly said as she made her way down, the walk. "Yes, ma'am," I quickly replied, "but you can call me Clay." "Oh, great," she remarked. My husband will be right out." At that, I opened the truck and took out the carrier. "Oh, wow," she remarked. "She's even more beautiful than the pictures we got." Yeah, she behaves pretty good," I responded. By this time, her husband had come out, up on us, and the lady turned and said, "Robert, this is Clay Mohr, Jaime's friend. Glad to meet you. Isn't she beautiful, Robert?" She sure is. Thanks for getting her here today. My daughter's staying with her grandparents today, and they're bringing her back for her surprise birthday party, early this evening." No problem. I'm glad I could help." "Well, how much do we owe you?" the lady asked. "Nothing," I replied. It's all in the price. Just if you can sign the paperwork and we'll be good to go." "Are you sure?" as I saw Mr. Taylor reaching in his pocket. "Nah, please. I've known Jaime a long time, and I wouldn't feel right taking any money." "Okay, well, I'll let Jaime know, we really appreciate it." I looked down at my passenger and said, "So long." "I hope your little girl likes her," I said as I shook their hands and turned to my truck. They said, "Thanks again." I started my truck and waved back to them as they headed up their front door and said to myself, "You really made out, you mutt. Living with the rich and famous and whatever else." As I got back on the interstate, I thought a little Consuela. I hope everything works out for her. I came to the understanding that as a child, we can't pick our parents and the life we're going to grow up in. But one thing is for sure, whatever kind of dog we have, it's not going to know if you're rich or if you're poor. Just going to love you for who you are. As I got closer to home, the phone rang and it was Jaime. Hey, Clay, just wanted to call and make sure everything went okay. No worries, I said. They were tickled pink and I got the paperwork. Great, Jaime replied. By the way, some guy named Jack Lux called and he's interested in a dog. Yeah, I gave him your number. Great guy. Make sure you take care of him. Will do, Clay. Talk soon. As I headed up my driveway, I was glad to be home. I paused a minute before I got out and thought, well, there's another little girl that's going to get a puppy. I guess everything happens for a reason, but that's another story for another time. Bringing the past to the present. I am Clay Mohr.